Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor here at Star Local Media. This is Devin Hassan. He is our sports reporter for the Mesquite News and the Rowlett Lakeshore Times. We are here to talk Game of the Week for Week 3 of the high school football season. A much greater turnout from a voting standpoint this week, so thank you to everybody who voted. But ultimately, this is a runaway for Plano Senior and Rowlett. They finished with, last time I checked, it was about 70% of the vote, not even a contest. So the Wildcats and the Eagles faithful clearly showing some love for this game, which should be a very good game, a very compelling game between two teams with some pretty lofty aspirations for this season. I guess Devin's going to be there on Friday, 7:30 p.m. at Clark Stadium. I guess as far as where to start with what to kind of what this game means. I mean, I guess I'll start with Plano. For Plano, this is kind of a show me game, I think, for the Wildcats. I think some folks are a little reluctant as to what to make of Plano's 2-0 start because, we've kind of been here before with this team, just as recently as last year. Plano opens the year with a fairly surprising win against Hebron, just like they did this year. They blow out Irving MacArthur, just like they did this year. And then they, you enter that Week 3 hurdle against Rowlett, kind of a proving ground game to really kind of validate your early success. And then Rowlett just kicks their head in. It was 31-7. Plano lost 4 fumbles, gave up nearly 500 yards of offense. This one was over in a hurry. And then Plano proceeded to, lose. I mean, that was the first of 5 consecutive losses for Plano. Really kind of sent the season in in a bit of a tailspin. They had the same thing happen the year prior. They start the year 2-0, lose to Hebron to open up district play, and then they lose 6 of 7, and then they've missed the playoffs 2 straight years. Week 3 has kind of been a bit of a stumbling block. So they have a chance now Friday in a rematch with a Rowlett team that they lost to last year to again kind of validate this hot start and show that they're, I guess, to be, I don't want to say taken seriously, but at least you should at least keep an eye on Plano for this season. So that's at least what it's looking like on Plano's side with Rowlett. What does this game mean for them?
For Rowlett, it's really about building on last week. If we would have talked 2 weeks ago, this would probably not be the game of the week. Rowlett was coming off a tough loss to Louisville, where they just couldn't get going. Rowlett came into the season with 6 returning starters, so they had a lot of youth. That first game really showed. Last week against their Lake Ray Hubbard rival, Rockwall, a team that had just beat Highland Park the week before. Obviously, they put it together. 48-41 was the score. Rowlett rallied in the second half. Really got some big plays from their key guys. That was what really stood out to me last week. They don't have a lot of key returning guys, but the ones they do, they were able to lean on last week. Preston Weeks at quarterback did a really good job running the offense. He broke a long run for a touchdown. Chauncey Amos broke a long run for a touchdown, but it was also on defense. Their key guys on defense. Sam Dandler intercepted a pass, returned it 60 yards for a touchdown in the first quarter. Brandon Stark recovered a fumble. DeModrick Wade recovered a fumble. Chase Taylor had a huge sack late. So they really did a lot as far as in terms of building momentum with that win. The key now is to carry it over into Friday night.
Okay. So I guess now you'll be at the game, so you'll get to see, you'll have an idea of kind of what to look for, while the game is unfolding right before you. I won't be at the game. I'll be out in Allen. But as far as what I'm initially kind of anxious to kind of see out of what Plano can do on Friday, obviously with Plano, they've been a very run-heavy team for several years. So you're always going to be, kind of curious as to how the passing game develops. So you can, just to keep defenses honest. So far, Plano's only thrown for 166 yards. It's been on nearly 70%, completion. So it's been efficient. But obviously, you'd like to see a little bit more volume. And they've got talented receivers, guys like Caleb McAway, Heinrich Adrians. They got 2 sophomores that they use, Isaiah Calhoun and Jaden Chambers. Jadon McCullough's talked about wanting to let the passing game breathe a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to kind of see just how that develops on Friday against what's a fairly young and experienced Rowlett defense. Just again, so you can keep defenses honest, so you're not just loading the box up against Kyron Cumbie, Cody Christ, and Plano's stable of running backs. And then also defensively, you just got to look at last year's game just to see what where this thing kind of went sideways for Plano. They gave up nearly 500 yards of offense. They had absolutely no answer for Rowlett quarterback Preston Weeks, especially on the ground. Preston Weeks had 123 yards rushing on only 15 attempts. Plano and you look at a lot of those gains, a lot of it just boiled down just to bad tackling, just a real lack of just a real lack of just discipline and fundamentals there. So, Plano's defense has shown a little bit more. At the start of the season, there's a lot more speed, especially up front. There's a lot of experience in the secondary. They've looked the part, against Hebron and Irving MacArthur, but again, Rowlett is a different animal, so especially Weeks, who they've already seen before. So it'll be interesting to see kind of from year 1 to year 2 how they handle, seeing Preston Weeks for a second time. As far as Rowlett, what are you going to be looking for, Devin?
Well, you mentioned the passing game. That could be an area that Plano would be able to exploit in the Rowlett defense because they are so young. They're rotating a lot of guys. Again, they only have 2 weeks of experience, varsity experience, a lot of these guys. So the key for Rowlett really is where they do have experiences up front in the front 7. And they gave up nearly 300 yards through the air to Rockwall last week. But second half, they kind of wore them down a little bit. Like I mentioned the big plays earlier, but that front was able to get pressure on Rockwall, disrupt their passing game. But that's who they're going to have to rely on early on. And then you mentioned offense. They did rack up almost 500 yards last year, but that was a completely different cast.
Yeah.
Preston Weeks is back, and that's a big bonus, but they're basically replacing everybody else at the skill positions. So they don't have quite the explosiveness that they had last year, which may favor Plano.
And so as far as kind of which way we're leaning on this game, first off, if you want to see our picks for this game and more, you can check out the picket line at starlocalsports.com. But I believe this is one, Devin. I think we're in different camps on this one. So I will start. I'm leaning Plano in this one. I guess if I'm going to boil it down, I trust that Plano is just not going to fumble the ball 4 times. As simple as that is, now Rowlett's done a good job at forcing fumbles and recovering fumbles. I've seen they've already got 3 this season, but it's just a hunch that ball security has been a bit. When you think of Plano versus Rowlett, the Wildcat coaches, ball security is going to be top of mind when you look at ways in which this game kind of got away from them. So it's just a hunch that Plano's going to do a better job protecting the ball, and it's also kind of a belief that what Plano's defense has shown early on, that they're going to be able to they're going to be able to tackle better. I think it does help that they've seen Weeks once already, so they won't be as taken aback by what he brings to the table this time around. But also just the fact that I think their defensive line is fast enough to take advantage up front, and they're just a vote that the defense is the progress that they've shown in these first 2 weeks isn't just smoke and mirrors. And also I guess these first 2 weeks you see some teams that you're just not really sure what to make of, and we've talked about Rowlett and Plano kind of fit this bill. With Plano, you're not really sure if their 2-0 start is what it is, but with Rowlett, they've submitted 2 very, very different performances. So you see what the way they looked in week 1 against Louisville versus how they looked against Rockwall. Was it just simply the fumes of a rivalry matchup and being able to feed off of that? It's probably somewhere in the middle ultimately, but I just feel like maybe there's, at least relative to Rowlett, there's a little bit more certainty with what Plano is right now. So taking that into consideration, I give Plano the edge in this one, but only by a touchdown or so.
Yeah, I like you say, I'm kind of leaning the other direction. Maybe I'm caught up too much in the hype of last week's thriller at the Cotton Bowl, and maybe too much in last year's. Obviously, that was a 31-7 game last year, really dominated by Rowlett, 2 totally different teams. Despite their youth, the Rowlett defense has played well enough to win both weeks. Even in the game against Louisville, they only gave up 17 points. 7 of the points came on a defensive score. And then, like I say, against Rockwall last week, they gave up their share of yards early, but once they made adjustments, they came out and really held a very potent Rockwall offense in check last week. So I think they can contain Plano enough to keep it close, certainly. I think it comes down to Preston Weeks, though. Again, as the younger players develop around him, he's going to have the ball in his hands, and he's, like you mentioned, he's running. He rushed for 123 yards last year. Well, he's not a breakaway guy. He's a big guy who runs between the tackles and picks up those tough yards, and the entire defense gets really frustrated by him. And he did a good job last year in picking his spots, throwing the ball, threw for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really, I think it comes down to Plano's ability to contain Weeks, harass him in the pocket, get him out of his element. I still think, given last week and their ability to make big plays, I think Rowlett can make 2 or 3 game-changing plays, enough to pull out a 31-28 top victory.
Well, there you have it, folks. A heated debate between myself and Devin. I hope we can coexist for the rest of the workday.
We'll work on it, yeah.
But that's all we had, folks. Again, Devin will be on site at Clark Stadium on Friday covering this one. You can follow him on Twitter at Devin Hassan, right?
At Devin Hassan.
At Devin Hassan. And then afterwards, the first spot, you can check out his story as well as all the stories that are going to be written by the Star Local Media Sports crew on Friday night. Visit starlocalsports.com, folks. Appreciate y'all watching.
Thanks.